With that, I'd like to recognize the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Smith, the ranking member of the Human Rights Subcommittee who's been working on these issues along with Chairman McGovern for decades.
The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
I want to thank my good friend, Mr. McCall, the ranking member, for his leadership, for his very, very strong and passionate statement today. Thank you, Mike. I'd like to thank my good friend and colleague, Mr. McGovern, the chairman of both the China Commission as well as the Lantos Commission, and I serve as co-chair with him on the Lantos and as ranking member on the China Commission. And I'm very pleased to be the principal Republican co-sponsor of this bill. I see Mr. Swazi over there, who's been a great leader as well. We've been teaming up for years on this issue, and I want to thank him for his leadership as well. And Elliot Engel, our chairman, for his work on this as well. Madam Speaker, at a 2018 congressional hearing I co-chaired, Miragal Tursun recounted her ordeal of torture, sexual abuse, and detention in one of China's mass internment camps in Xinjiang. She broke down weeping, telling us that she pleaded with God to end her life. Her Chinese jailers restrained her to a table, actually increased the electrical currents coursing through her body, and mocked her belief in God. She was tortured simply for being an ethnic Uyghur and a Muslim in China. There are millions of stories like this waiting to be told, Madam Speaker, nightmarish accounts of President Xi Jinping's genocide. And make no mistake about it, this is Xi Jinping's genocide. I point out to my colleagues that this includes the mass internment of millions, an estimated 1.8 million victims in concentration camps, children ripped from the warm embrace of their families to be indoctrinated in communist ideology and forced to renounce their religion, their culture, and their language. Rape and sexual abuse of women being held in internment camps, forced abortion and involuntary sterilization to prevent the birth of Uyghur children, a direct violation of Article 2D of the UN Genocide Convention, which states in part that genocide includes imposing measures intended to prevent births within a group. Forced labor on a massive scale that allows Chinese companies to profit, and profit big time, from modern-day slavery. Chinese authorities initially denied the existence of mass internment camps and tried to portray them as vocational training. The Chinese Communist Party employed the big lie, censorship, and economic coercion to stifle any discussion of their crimes. However, documents obtained by the New York Times and the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists have exposed beyond any reasonable doubt the brutality behind Beijing's plans to radically and coercively transform the culture and religion of ethnic Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other Muslims in China. The leaked papers showed detailed plans, this is back years ago now, of looking to intern between 1 and 3 million Uyghurs in these concentration camps and imposing Orwellian indoctrination efforts for those whose thinking has been infected. In other words, if you're a Muslim, your thinking is infected. At the same time, Beijing instituted plans to erase the influence of Islam in all of Western China, bulldozing mosques and shrines, severely restricting religious practice, and forcing detainees in the camps to renounce their faith. The leaked documents also show that Xi Jinping himself directed the crackdown, saying the Communist Party must put the organs of dictatorship to work and show absolutely no mercy in dealing with the Uyghurs and other Muslims. In one speech, President Xi said, "The weapons of the people's democratic dictatorship must be wielded without any hesitation or wavering." In 2017, February, the documents show he told thousands of police officers and troops standing at attention in the vast square in Urumqi to prepare for a smashing, obliterating offensive. Secret teams even went out because some of the cops didn't want to do this, and they expunged them from their ranks. We know, Madam Speaker, that goods produced with forced labor find their way into U.S. markets. An estimated 22% of U.S. cotton goods come from the region, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency has prohibited companies from importing some textiles, electronics, and hair products. As my good friend from Texas pointed out about the hair. The last time we talked about the buying and selling of hair was with the Nazi concentration camps. It's happening today in Xinjiang. Over the past year, the Trump administration has matched its strong rhetoric, condemning abuses and actions to protect U.S. national security, and punish Chinese authorities and corporations complicit in these human rights abuses. Since last October, the Commerce Department has placed over 40 Chinese companies and government entities on its entity list, restricting exports because of their complicity in human rights abuse and enabling high-tech surveillance. In July, the Treasury Department issued global Magnitsky sanctions against 6 senior Chinese officials. However, we want more. There are other people complicit. They need to be on the list. Treasury has also sanctioned the Xinjiang Production Construction Corps, a paramilitary organization that reports directly to the CCP. And this summer, U.S. Customs and Border Protection banned 8 other Chinese companies from importing textiles, hair, and electronics products. We welcome these steps, but more needs to be done. The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act prohibits imports from Xinjiang to the U.S. by creating a rebuttable presumption. And that is the core of this bill, that all goods produced in the region are made with forced labor unless U.S. Customs and Border Protection certifies by clear and convincing evidence that goods were not produced with forced labor. So the rebuttable presumption is the key to this legislation. It also carries other provisions, important ones, but again, that's the most important one. Ask for an additional minute, if you have it.
Yes, one additional minute.
Thank my friend. It also authorizes targeted sanctions on any person responsible for labor trafficking, protects U.S. investors and consumers by requiring financial disclosure from U.S. traded businesses about their engagement with Chinese companies and other entities engaged in serious human rights abuses, directs the Secretary of State to determine whether forced labor or other crimes against Uyghurs constitute crimes against humanity or genocide. I think it couldn't be clearer. Read the Genocide Convention. One item after the other articulated in that convention is being met, sadly, by Xi Jinping's horrible genocide against his own people. I urge support for the bill. It's a bipartisan bill, 67 co-sponsors in all. Republicans and Democrats joined saying, we want this stopped. I yield back, and I thank you.